Hello, everyone, my dear programmers, students, my dear friends. Next lesson, object-oriented programming with C++, inheritance, very important topic. Let me remind you the classes we discuss during the course. So last lesson was box. We tried composition. Composition is when you embed into a new class data members of the existing classes. So you may call it has a box has six rectangles. So class box has rectangles as data members. But today we are going to talk about a new relationship. Now it's not between class and objects, it's between class and class. And it's called inheritance. I'm going to create a new class field rectangle based on rectangle class. So when you inherit, basically you make your class more powerful, more specific, with more features, more data members, more member functions. At the same time, everything which is available in rectangle class still yours. You can still use that stuff, let's say, for free. All the functionality of the base class is passed to you. So we call this class as base class, and we call this class as derived class. Let's take a look at the coding. So one more time, rectangle class, I didn't change it. You see static members, you see private members, you see two getters. Sometimes, by the way, in order to provide safe access to modify data members, you may also define setters in your class. We don't need them. We just need two getters. Getters allow us to read only, to access data members for reading only. So three technical functions, private functions, draw top, draw middle, draw bottom. Now let's take a look. Implementation of the rectangle class. I strongly encourage everybody to type, guys, what you see, to compile it, to try to modify my example somehow. So try to be practical. Now I'm deriving. I'm creating field rectangle. You see how the inheritance is done. You define new class, but you mentioned the previous class. So this is base. This is derived. I have a new character because my field rectangle is supposed to have something inside. We call it field. One more data members, but all the old data members still there. So sometimes when you look at derived class interface, when you look at the functions of your derived class, you may be confused. It seems to be so little. It doesn't show you all the stuff you inherited. So this is constructor. They are very important. By the way, constructors give birth to objects, and I never, guys, recommend you to rely on default constructors created by compiler. So sometimes if compiler sees you didn't define any constructors, it may try to create his own. And sometimes we call it default constructor. By the way, there is confusion in terminology. Default constructor term used in two different meanings. Sometimes it's constructor U-defined without parameters. We call it default constructor. Sometimes when we say default constructor, we mean constructor provided by the compiler if you don't have any. I don't recommend, guys, to rely on such constructors provided by the compiler. Always do it yourself. It's very important business to create objects, so don't leave it up to the computer. So I did. I made my filled rectangle constructor. It has 4 parameters, of course, because filled rectangle more advanced object. And now in the initialization list, you see I called my base class constructor. It's mandatory. Whenever you create derived object, first thing to do, you have to call base class constructor. Remember, constructor syntax allows us to use initialization list or the body to initialize members. So technically speaking, I could initialize fill here in the initialization list, so it's both okay. And that's it. So basically everything I just take from my base class for granted. So let's take a look now at the main program. So I instantiate now more advanced object with 4 parameters because I need character for outline, character for the fill. And you see all the old stuff still working on new objects. Draw, grow, shrink, everything is still good. So let me prove it. Let me show you. Let's take a look. And of course, what I'm using is old draw methods or member functions. Sometimes I switch terminology and I call member functions methods. So you see, yes, it's working, but it doesn't know anything about fill. My base class doesn't know about fill, so you see the rectangles are displayed without the fill. So there are maybe 3 different ways to use member functions from your base class. So I would say it is reuse, it is redefine, and it is improve. So right now I'm just reusing. I'm reusing my base class draw method as it is. I could redefine it completely. So if I don't like it, I may say, well, I'm going to have my own draw function. So that's possible. Completely replace old stuff. Let's make it simple. So let's make draw very simple to make discussion short. So I'm going to just print a message. I don't like base class draw. So this way I'm completely replacing old method by my own methods. Of course, I have to add it to my prototype file. Now let's compile it. Okay, so you see it is drawn 3 times, but because I didn't really implement any drawing, you see just 3 messages. So what happens here now is my new method is called, and it completely redefines the old method. However, there is a third approach. You may improve base class methods. You may add to the base class method something new. You may call it in your derived class. So how to call the same method? Because if I type draw, it's a recursive call when function calling itself. Be careful. If you want to call draw in the base class, you need the name of the class, and then you may add something else. So you may draw and then add something else. So rectangle. Let's double check if this technique is okay. No error messages. Yes, it's working. So you see the old drawing is done. Then I printed something else. So again, today I showed you just basic stuff about inheritance. I showed you how you can just take base class functions as they are. I showed you how you can redefine them completely if you don't like them. And finally, I showed you how you can extend base functions by calling them in your derived class, line 9. So let's go back to the beginning of the lesson. So the original version of rectangle class was like this. And next lesson, we are going to achieve a field rectangle drawing, because right now we just played with the field rectangle. We discussed different ways to inherit, but we didn't solve the main problem. The main problem is still field rectangle doesn't properly displayed. We don't see yet the character inside rectangle, and that's the main difference. The main difference between field rectangle and rectangle. Field rectangle has not only outline, it has also a fill. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, guys. Don't forget about sharing the video, likes, comments, and I'll see you next lesson. We are going to talk about virtual functions. We are going to discuss again polymorphism when different objects have the same member functions and they work differently on different objects. All the best. Good luck. Take care.